I spent over $500,000 on coaches, mentors, and gurus just in the past 6.5 years alone. In today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you which mentors I hired, how much I paid each mentor, how much money I made after investing into their coaching or their program, the biggest lesson that I learned from each of these individual mentors or coaches. I'm going to start with the smallest investment first, work my way up into the largest, and then at the very end, I'm going to take all that I learned from all these mentors, sum everything up into one big lesson. Stick around because number 5 is going to blow your mind, okay? And you really want to stick around because there are some things that I think you're going to want to know before considering hiring your own coach or your own mentor. Let's get into it. Just to be clear, these are not the only coaches and only mentors that I've ever hired. In fact, outside of what I'm going to be sharing today, I've invested probably an extra $100,000 or so into different coaches, different mentors that are not in the flow that I'm sharing today in areas like real estate, Amazon FBA, drop shipping, crypto, a number of different areas that when I was first starting out my entrepreneurial journey, I was just really kind of grasping, trying to find something that worked. And though I had other mentors, other coaches, and I did see some success in other areas, the coaches and mentors I'm sharing about today are actually the ones who moved the needle for me in the biggest way in my specific process. So with no further ado, let's jump right on in. So the first mentor that I hired was about 7 years ago when I was starting my entrepreneurial journey. I remember that I was coming from the missions world and we were doing okay, but I really just felt like it was time to move deeper into business. And so I started searching the internet for words like marketing, sales. I didn't really know anything about the business world. And thankfully, to my surprise, I started getting hit with ads from a woman named 𝐷𝐢𝐜𝐤. And Sandy was really cool. She's really unique. She struck me as a very she had like this unicorn type of personality, just like very bold, very outgoing, wasn't scared to like speak her mind, and had tremendous value in even the free posts and the ads that she was putting out. So she really caught my interest, and specifically her offer at the time was how to do social media and how to get your stuff out there and how to grow your brand online with social media. And so I signed up for Sandy's mentorship at the time. She had ones that were much higher than this, but the one that I began with was actually only $97 a month. And believe it or not, like that was a gigantic leap for me even 7 years ago as I was starting my entrepreneurial journey. $97 a month was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, right? Because if you're going from working a 9 to 5, being an employee, never really investing into yourself before, it's really interesting because any money that you invest into yourself outside of traditional college or school, etc., for whatever reason, it just seems like this big, crazy number. Even though $97 a month, I was spending more than that a month probably on shoes or probably on, meeting with people for coffee. I didn't put 2 and 2 together, but honestly, that's the mindset that a lot of people have when it comes to beginning the journey of investing into yourself. It's like every number seems so huge, and looking back now, it's like so laughable. Only $97 a month. And I remember they actually had a deal where you could jump in. I think it was like $9.97 for the year. So you could save like $200. And I didn't even take the $9.97 because I was too broke minded to even consider $1,000 investment. So I was like, nah, this 97 one's crazy enough. I'm not going to invest $1,000, which is super, super low level thinking, but that's just where I was in the beginning of my journey. So that's how much I invested with 𝐷𝐢𝐜𝐤 in the beginning. And here's probably the biggest thing that I learned from Sandy. I'll never forget. I put my card information in. I was excited to learn. I clicked on a random course and it opened up and there is Sandy. She is in her pajamas. She's literally in her pajamas, like drinking coffee, and like hair's not even done yet. Makeup's not done. And she doesn't care. And literally the video is like, hey guys, in this course, and I was like, wait, what? Like this is crazy. Like she just rolled out of bed and she's shooting a course and she was holding her phone. Like I was like, wait, there's no studio, there's no lights, there's no production. She just sitting here. And it was so interesting because I felt like I was sitting there having morning coffee with a friend. And I was like, wait. you can do this? This is what? Like, because I was under the impression like, well, man, you probably have to have a team and a studio and lights, camera, action, and you have to have all this money behind the production. And here's Sandy just like drinking coffee in her pajamas. And so that was the biggest shocker, because I was like, surely this can't be. And then she starts giving the lesson, and I was like, this information is incredible. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, I will gladly pay this woman $97 a month until I'm done with this, because I actually don't even care what the production looks like. I'm so glad that the content she is sharing has this much value. This is insane. And so I was culture shocked, to say the least, going from, number one, not even believing in myself enough to barely invest $100 a month in myself. Number two, when I finally made the jump and I invested, to see that, oh my gosh, you don't even have to have all this crazy production. Like, you literally just have to have something good to share with people. And myself included at the time, I don't even care that there's no production or not. I'm just glad to learn the information. And so that alone was like life shaking for me at the time, going from an employee mindset, going from, my wife and I were living in Section 8 housing, going from like, you know, just struggling to get by, like typical American mindset of like, work hard, maybe become a manager somewhere. Maybe if you're a good boy or a good girl, if you work extremely hard your whole entire life, save a little bit, maybe when you're like 60 or 70 years old, you might have enough to retire. I was still under that mindset. So I get connected to Sandy, and I was like, wow, this is insane. I will tell you this, as far as the return on my investment after investing into Sandy's program at the time, it was more of a return in my mindset. And I will tell you this, like, there are obviously different kinds of returns on your investment that you can get. A lot of people, when they're first starting out in the game, in the entrepreneurial journey, because they're in this desperate place, they're wondering like, how fast can I make my money back? And yes, that's a cool question to ask, and it's a valid question to ask. But another thing that I learned from investing into Sandy, it was, I'm not just trying to make money back, I'm trying to grow as a person. I'm trying to become more. And so for that, I would say the return on my investment in that stage of my journey was absolutely priceless for me, to just have my mind opened up to begin to think bigger outside of the small box that I had placed myself in. Hey, I really hope that you're enjoying the video. I want to invite you guys. I have recently created a free training teaching people how to make money online. My students are literally making anywhere from $5,000 to $10,000 a month, and some of them even make hundreds of thousands of dollars, not in a year, but in a single day. If you want more information on how you can get started, all you need is a phone and a laptop. You can go to digitalproductacademy.org, or you can click the link below in the description. Guys, after you watch the free training, if it sounds like it might be something cool for you to check out, you can book a free call with one of my client success coaches, and they'll be able to help you more. Now, back to the video. Okay, so let's talk about the second mentor that I hired in this flow, in this series, okay? The second person that I hired after I got my mindset started to grow a little bit, I was starting to search new terms and new words that I was learning from her. And lo and behold, again, as I'm searching and researching and trying to find on YouTube, like, well, what does she mean by this phrase or that phrase? I don't understand. Lo and behold, another guy hit me with some ads and began to mentor me through free content and ads. His name was Tai Lopez, and at the time he had just dropped an ad. And if you've ever heard it before, Tai is like in his garage and he's holding up his phone. It's like one of the first viral marketing ads on the internet and on YouTube. In fact, I believe it was Harvard that actually turned this ad into like one of their courses, where people now study internet marketing on Tai's ad. Like, it was so perfectly genius what he did at the time. And he's in his garage and he goes, hey guys, I just bought this new Lambo here in back of me, but you know what's cooler than the Lamborghini? Knowledge. In fact, look at all these books. In fact, check this out right quick. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills. But you know what I like a lot more than materialistic things? Knowledge. In fact, I'm a lot more proud of these 7 new bookshelves that I had to get installed to hold 2,000 new books that I bought.
So if you haven't seen it before, there it is, right? And so I was mind blown, like, what? People will pay you for knowledge? Like, this is insane. Because at this point, again, I hadn't really known anything about this world. And I was like, this is so mind blowing to me. Like, people will pay you for knowledge. This is nuts. So I started going down Ty's rabbit hole, and he had all these different kind of programs and mentorships. Again, a lot of them were like kind of lower end. How Sandy had higher ones, but I just purchased like a lower end one. And even though Ty had lower end mentorships and stuff, my mindset had grown enough at this point. I'm probably 3 or 4 months into my process at this point. And my mindset started growing like, okay, I need to go a little bit bigger, right? Like I need to go more. If the $97 a month investment with Sandy grew my mindset this much, like I can't imagine investing even more into somebody else, and maybe that would grow my mindset even more. Maybe it'll start growing my money, right? Now, one thing I was considering at this time is the book of Proverbs says that wisdom is in the multitude of many counselors. So this was an insight that my wife and I were praying through at the time, going, do we go all in just with one, or should we maybe have 2, 3, 4 mentors? And we decided, okay, well, since Proverbs tells us that we need a couple of mentors, 2, 3, 4, we need to get multiple perspectives on the same subject from different mentors, so that way we can be a little bit more rounded in our approach. So with this being said, Ty had an opportunity to join what was called the Social Media Marketing Agency. It was a program of his. At the time, it was $5,000. Now, I began to think about, maybe I could start a social media marketing agency, because again, what I was learning from Sandy in her mentorship program at the time was how to grow a brand on social media. And honestly, I was taking massive action on what I was learning from Sandy, and my social media was starting to erupt. It was starting to go crazy, actually. So when I got hit with the opportunity with Ty to not just grow your own social media, but you can actually help others grow their social media, you can create a business around this, and people will pay you to grow their social media for them, I was like, what? Maybe I could do this. Like, this is pretty cool. I'm getting decent at social media. Maybe this is something I can do. So I begin to look at it, and I'll never forget, I go through his funnel and I get to the checkout page. The program is $5,000. And remember, just 4 months ago, I'm like, $97 a month. This is crazy, right? Let alone $5,000 now for this program. I was pretty shook. And obviously with this number, I was like, man, I need to talk to my wife about this one. This just isn't some $97 a month thing where, maybe she would or wouldn't mind. This is like a bigger chunk. And so I go to my wife and I'm like, yeah, there's this thing. And you remember how I've been learning about social media? Yeah. Remember, like, it's kind of helping? Yeah. I said, well, there's this new mentorship program. It's $5,000, and supposedly he teaches you how to like start an agency online where you help other people grow their social media platform. And in my heart, I'd already decided no, because I was so small-minded. Again, just 6.5, 7 years ago, I was so small-minded. I was like, it's $5,000. There's no way she's going to say yes. I don't even know why I'm bringing it up to her. Before I could finish telling her the opportunity, she looks at me, she goes, you have to do it. And I was like, what? Like, what? Did you hear what I said? It's $5,000. And she's like, you have to do this. She's like, look how much you've grown just with this other mentorship. Like, what if you grew even more with this one? And I was like, yeah, but did you hear what I just said? It's $5,000. And thank God for my wife. She's like, listen, you would be foolish if you didn't do this. It sounds awesome. And if worse comes to worse and somehow we lose the money, at least you got access to more information. And she was the first one to tell me this. And I remember her saying this, even if we lose the money, your potential is bigger than losing money. Like, I know, and she was speaking this into me. I know you can make $5,000 easily if you just try. So why not invest? Like, we need to invest into ourselves. Let's do this. And I was like, okay, like, who are you? Right. And because my mindset was too small. So she believed in me. She believed in us. She said, let's go for it. Lo and behold, I was like, let's do this. And as I was shaking, it was $5,000 is a huge number for me back then. It's not an insignificant number, but it was just huge for me then. And so I was like kind of shaking. I put my card information in and I purchased the program. Now here is the crazy part. I jumped into Ty's program And within 6 months, with the information that I learned from Ty, I took massive action on what he was sharing in his program. Within 6 months, my wife and I, we had made $900,000 just in a matter of 6 months, learning what was inside of Ty's program. Okay. We were mind blown. We are like, what is happening? This is insane. Cause we literally went from, like, when we first got married, we were living in Section 8 housing. Like, you know, like we were so broke that, like, broke people felt bad for us. Like we were really struggling, man. We were missionaries, right? We were like just trying to, like, do God's work and hopefully, we'll get by somehow. And so here we are, we invest the money, and in 6 months we made $900,000. One of the biggest things that I learned from Tai Lopez in this season when I invested into that program was the power of accessing someone else's proven blueprint. See, Tai at the time, he had his own social media marketing agency where he was doing this for others. And what he did was he's like, man, my blueprint works. I'm going to sell my blueprint to people who are interested in doing the same thing. And it was mind blowing to me that, like, oh my gosh, like, I paid him $5,000 for this knowledge, but the return on the investment just by not wasting time and trying to figure this out on my own, I invested into somebody's knowledge. I bought knowledge from somebody else, got a proven blueprint, and literally that blueprint, I just followed the blueprint and made almost $1 million in 6 months. So the biggest lesson I learned from Tai is you got to pay for speed. You've got to be willing. If you want to go fast, there's a saying that says success loves speed. If you want to be successful, you got to do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now, do it now. The difference between successful people and unsuccessful people are successful people are just willing to do it now, willing to do it imperfect, willing to take massive imperfect action, because how many of y'all know imperfect action is better than no action at all? Even if you're doing it imperfect, it's way better than not jumping and not taking the chance. So that was the biggest thing I learned from Tai is, like, man, when you invest into a proven blueprint, things go super fast. And honestly, guys, that was the beginning of me learning the power of having wealth go fast. And the only way that wealth can go fast is if you pay for a proven blueprint, take massive imperfect action on that blueprint, and you will literally go from, like, it's going to take me 40, 50, 60 years working hard, saving. You can literally go from that to I made almost $1 million in less than a year, like this. Okay, so now we're really getting deep into this thing, okay? So fast forward now, by this point, 7-8 months into my time running a social media marketing agency, by this point, we had made well over $1 million. We had become millionaires, and we were now understanding the power of investing into mentorship and coaching, purchasing proven blueprints, right? And so we're like, okay, where should we invest next? And so I begin to ask around and begin to look around at different people who were successful, and why were they successful? Who did they hire to teach them how to be successful? Because now I've got a little bit of money and I can go hire somebody else to teach me some of that stuff too. So as I'm doing my research, okay, we're going to talk about the third mentor that I hired in this progression. Pretty cool now. We're starting to really jump up now. I had heard about a couple friend of mine, a young married couple who, kind of like me, they were coming from a ministry background, again, kind of like a missionary background, like, just struggling to make it, doing God's work, but really struggling to make any kind of money. And within about a year, they went from broke as a joke to having a multi-million dollar company. And they were doing this off of the back of virtual events. Okay. And I was like, what? So a friend of mine told me, a mutual friend of theirs and mine. And I said, hey, what's going on with these guys? And he said, well, they've been doing these virtual events and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, that's cool. Are they having any success? And he goes, man, I mean, Forbes just did a report on them. I think they did $3 million their first year of doing their new system with virtual events. I was like, what? Wait. $3 million in a year just by doing virtual events? He's like, yeah. And so I contacted this guy and his wife, And I said, listen, I don't want to sign up for, because at the time they were doing like a dating program. That's what they were selling, but they were doing virtual events to sell their dating program. I said, listen, I'm already happily married. I'm not trying to do a dating program. Can I actually pay you to teach me how to do the virtual events? And they were kind of shocked because they were newer-ish at this too, even though they'd found like a pretty cool system. They're like, we'll tell you, we'll get back to you. And I'm like, okay. And so they got back to me and they were like, we could kind of show you, and it kind of looked like this. Honestly, it just, the offer they made to me, it was a little clunky. It was like, I think it was like $50,000 or $65,000, something like way more than I was willing to do at the time. And even though they were doing it, I knew they were kind of newer-ish at doing virtual events. So I was like, okay, cool. And I was considering, man, I don't know if I want to invest 50 or whatever it was, 60 or 65,000. Maybe I should. And my wife, spirit of wisdom upon my wife, she goes, well, who taught them? Who taught them how to host virtual events? I said, that is a genius idea. I get on the phone with their guy and I said, listen, who showed them how to do this? And he just nonchalantly said, oh, it's this guy, Phil. And I said, Phil? Phil who? He goes, I don't know his last name. And I will be honest with you, as of the recording of this video, I don't remember Phil's last name. Like, I legit don't even remember this guy's last name. But I was like, Phil, put me in touch with Phil, baby. Let's go. I'm going to learn this stuff. And so long story short, they put me in touch with the guy who taught them. His name was Phil. I'd never heard of him in my life. He wasn't on social media, but he had, I think, 2 or 3 testimonies. One was this couple friend of mine, and 1 or 2 others of people who are like, man, Phil's system works. He taught us how to do virtual events, and we're making $1 bajillion now. And I was like, well, if he's a guy that taught them and, these 2-3 people have had success, I guess I'll hire him. So I get on the phone with Phil. Yo, Phil, I'm friends with these guys over here. I heard that you showed them how to do their system. He goes, oh yeah, I showed them how to do their system. Now here's the crazy part. He's from overseas. And so I would have to get on the phone with him like at weird hours of the night. You know what I'm saying? Like 11 o'clock at night. It's like his morning time. Like, hey, Phil, I'd like to hire you. He had like this accent, sweet guy, but it was just an interesting, unique situation. And I couldn't help but wonder, like, man, I hope this guy ain't trying to scam me. Like Phil, I don't even know his last name. And I never heard of this guy, but I'm like, listen, man, I need you to teach me virtual events. How much is it to teach me? And he goes, absolutely. I'll teach you. It's $25,000. And I was like, ooh, $25,000. Okay. But I'm seeing what a $5,000 investment did for a proven blueprint. The $5,000 investment made me $900,000. So I submit this to my wife. I'm like, hey, what do you think? And she's like, you would be a fool not to. Like, my wife has been gung-ho about all of this from day one. Invest into yourself, invest into us, invest into our business, into our company by growing our education, because if you don't, we're going to stay stuck where we are. I was like, you're right. So she's like, you know what? You should just do it. If this guy has a couple of like people you could call to get some feedback from or whatever it is, like if a couple people could say, no, he's legit, then we should do it. So I obviously already had the couple who he taught. So I reached out to another person who had had success with Phil's system. I said, yo, is this legit? He goes, man, it's so legit. It's so legit. I was like, okay, cool. So I said, Phil, what's up? I wired Phil $25,000 and we got started. This guy, Phil, I do to this day, don't even know his last name, began to teach me about virtual events. And here's how to host a virtual event. Here's what you do. Here's how to set it up. Here's how to make money from it. Here's how to charge. Here's when to do it free. Just showed me the game of virtual events. And so I hosted my first virtual event, and I will never forget, on my first virtual event that I ever hosted, after learning this system from Phil, you'll never guess how much I made off of one virtual event the first time I hosted it. I made $25,000 on my first virtual event. I literally made my money back in one time of doing this knowledge that Phil gave me. Don't even know his last name, but he gave me the game. I ran the play and I made my money back on the first try. And here's the craziest thing. After this, I went on to make millions millions of dollars. Over the next 3 years, I made millions of dollars with virtual events in the exact way that this guy, Phil, taught me how to do it. So what was the biggest thing I learned after hiring this guy, Phil, who I don't even know his last name, right? I would say the biggest thing that I learned from this guy, Phil, is it's one thing to have a proven blueprint. It's another thing to take massive action, but then it's a whole different thing to learn how to do these things en masse. What does that mean? Phil taught me how to take a message that was working for one person here, one person there. I had an agency, and every time I wanted to make a sale, I would have to do a one-on-one call with somebody. Well, Phil said, man, just gather people in a virtual room. So sometimes I would have 100 people in my virtual event. Sometimes I'd have 1,000 people in my virtual event. We got it up to where we were having 40,000 people join us for virtual events. Like, guys, a virtual stadium gathering, and I was doing the same thing I would have done on the phone call, one-on-one, having an agency, like I learned the social media marketing agency. The same kind of skills that I had from there, I was just doing now in front of a camera, 1 to 40,000 at a time. And it was just snowballing in the profits because the power of leveraging a one-to-many system. So real quick, let's recap. With Sandy, I began to learn the power of utilizing social media. I grew my mindset and began to start thinking like an entrepreneur. And I was able to invest in myself and start growing out of the stuck place that I was at. Listen, the biggest thing you don't want to do is you don't want to settle, because anything that settles on the bottom, right? So I began to work my way up. And then on top of that skill was compounded, hey, now that you know social media, you could actually have other people pay you to run their social media. I got a blueprint and I started making money doing that. The third one with Phil, I learned to take those other skills and stack one to many, like, okay, go wide with this thing now, make a big impact. So you don't have to just wait for 1 and 2 people to trickle in. You can have 100 people jump in, 1,000 people jump in. That's the biggest thing that I learned from Phil was like, okay, I need to leverage a one-to-many opportunity that's available today on the internet through social media, through video like this, and through this proven system. So that's how I began to really level up and start making multiple millions. Let's go on to number 4. So the fourth mentor that I hired in this series, there is a guy named 𝐂𝐤𝐤. Okay. If you're even halfway searching for business stuff right now, you've probably seen Cole's ads. He's everywhere right now. And what Cole teaches is he teaches people how to build sales teams, how to basically leverage your time and not just only do virtual events, but how to take what you do in a virtual event, teach it to a team of people. And that way you can now multiply what you've already multiplied with one-to-many or one-to-stage, one-to-virtual event type of sales experience. Now you can have a team of people doing what you are doing. And so 𝐂𝐤𝐤, I heard about his offer. This was a couple of years ago. A friend of mine let me know, hey, you should check this guy Cole out. I think it'd be a really powerful addition to what we're doing with these virtual events, and we should check it out. So I got on the phone with Cole and his guys, and I invested just under $100,000. I think it was like $96,000 or $98,000 to join Cole's highest level mastermind. It's called the 8-Figure Boardroom. And I will tell you this, within 9 months of investing that $100,000, I had made about $5 million just from the information that I learned from Cole and his system. If you're seeing a pattern here, the pattern is this. When you invest into yourself, when you take the leap and you go, you know what, I'm going to push myself to go to the next level. I'm going to invest into either my mindset. I'm going to invest into a proven blueprint. I'm going to invest into my skills. I'm going to invest into wisdom and knowledge. When you do this and when you take massive action on the information that you learned, the potential to get a return on your investment, not just monetarily, not just with the money, but with multiple areas of your life, is absolutely insane. It's insane. At this point, when I got connected to Cole a couple of years ago, I was already more established in my business, in my mindset, in my finances. So when they said, you know, it's like whatever it was, 96K, 98K, I said, no problem. And I jumped right on in, because by this point, there was a certain point along the way. Remember at the beginning of the video, I said there were other coaches, other mentors, other programs, other directions I went as I was trying to figure it out. Well, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, we did have some success in a lot of those areas. And by this point in our journey, my wife basically said, look, if you see an investment that you think could be beneficial for you and I don't care how much it is. If you think it's going to be beneficial, just purchase the thing, make the investment, hire the coach. I don't care at all. So at this point, I didn't even have to run it by my wife, right? She trusts me, and we're at a different place now than we were 7 years ago. I hired Cole on the spot in just a short amount of time, 9 months, made about $5 million. I think the biggest thing that I learned from Cole and from his whole entire system is just the way that he structures the operations. So in business, there are a number of different areas that you need to grow in. Obviously, you know, marketing, sales, and offer. Those three elements are like business 101, right? You have to have a good offer. You have to know how to get that offer out to the market. That's marketing. Then you have to, as people give their attention to your marketing, then you have to know how to sell to people like, hey, if you like this thing, you should buy it, right? It'll transform your life. So that's business 101. I was doing that along the way, but as we begin to level up our skills and our investments and hire these different coaches, I begin to see, man, if I really want to go to the next level and not just do like, you know, a couple million, I want to start going up to like tens of millions. I'm going to need a system, a structure, an operational kind of flow chart that me and my business will need to follow. And that's exactly what I got from Cole. Yes, he's got great training. The program was cool, all that stuff. Yes. But just seeing the structural organization on how to build something big, that was really, really important for me and my company. And like I said, in just a short amount of time, just 9 months, we did millions of dollars just off of the back of one of his organizational systems. And here we go, number 5. This is the one that you've all been waiting for. And I do need to say number 5 came into my life around the 3rd and 4th coach in this series. But I had to save number 5 for the end because I've actually paid this coach hundreds of thousands of dollars over the past couple of years. And not only have I paid this coach hundreds of thousands of dollars, I have to say that this coach has probably become my favorite in at least out of these 5, just in the past few years alone. Hey, real quick, if you've made it this far into the video and you're liking it, do me a favor, share this video with somebody that you think might also receive some value. My biggest heart in this channel is to simply bring some awareness, financial literacy, and do it all from a biblical perspective. So go ahead and share the video, like and subscribe, do all that stuff too. Back to the video. And this coach is Myron Golden. Dr. Golden has been revolutionary to my wife and I's life, to our business. And I will tell you this, the biggest thing that I learned from Myron was just the belief that all things are possible. Before I met with Myron, our virtual events were just going bananas. In fact, I think before I met Myron, before I hired him as a coach, we had already done, I think, like $700,000 in a single day before I met Myron. And then after I met Myron, that's whenever we did $1 million in a day with one of his systems. But the biggest thing that we got from Myron was just the belief and the foundational biblical principles that if you believe, then all things are possible. But if you believe, right, you have to believe first. And so, no, the program's not just belief. I don't want to belittle the program. The program is excellent. There's a ton of incredible value in there, and it is awesome. But man, I think for me personally, just the belief that this is possible. I will tell you this. I was almost as culture shocked whenever I joined Sandy's at the beginning of the video, almost as culture shocked as I was in the beginning. Like, what, you can do this in your pajamas? I was pretty much just as culture shocked when I got into the room of other people in his mentorship program, other people who had paid Myron hundreds of thousands of dollars. And I'm sitting there thinking like, man, I did pretty good, you know, 700K in a day, not too shabby on my systems that I got. And I was in this room hearing people go, many people were like, we made $1 million in a day. And one guy's like, I made $2 million in a day. And another guy's like, I made $5 million in a day. And another group gets up there and go, hey, we just got done doing $7 million in a day. And I was like, what is happening right now? Like millions in a day. And I think just getting around like-minded, like-hearted people who were doing bigger things than I was doing at the time was just revolutionary. And then of course the cherry on top is Myron's mentorship and his coaching. So that was gigantic for me, just to get around a mentor coach that says, man, all things are possible, and not just to hear them say it, but to see them do it and see multiple numbers of their students doing it. And then literally in a short amount of time, me doing it as well, like making 7 figures plus in a day. Like, what is happening right now? And so I would say the biggest thing that I learned from Myron is just the belief. I will tell you this, the return on my investment is in the tens of millions of dollars, simply because of the knowledge, the wisdom, the structures, the blueprints that I've learned from him, the ideas that I've gotten from Myron. It's literally led to tens and tens and tens of millions of dollars. And honestly, I'm just getting started with what I've learned from Myron. So really excited about that. So here's the thing. I told you at the end of the video, I would take all that I learned from all 5 of these mentors and kind of wrap it up into one big lesson. And so the big lesson is this. Number 1, if you are tired of being stuck where you are, you need to hire a coach or a mentor. That's the biggest lesson that I could give to you out of all of this. If I wouldn't have hired a coach or a mentor, I would have probably still been stuck thinking that $97 was like the biggest number in the world, right? Like, mentorship is the shortcut to success, period. Because in my opinion, there's only 2 ways to get wisdom. Number 1 is to go through pain and have to figure it all out the hard way yourself. That does lead to wisdom, but it takes a super long time to get there. Number 2, just buy wisdom. Like Proverbs tells us, buy wisdom. Whether it costs you everything, buy wisdom, buy knowledge, buy understanding. And then the next part says, and whatever you do, don't flippantly try to just get rid of it and like sell it to somebody like, I don't use it anymore. Here, you can have it, right? It's literally saying buy wisdom at all costs. So the biggest lesson I could tell you is you need a coach, you need a mentor. If you're stuck in your finances, if you want to see your business go to the next level, you need to hire a coach, you need to hire a mentor. And honestly, you need to hire a couple of coaches, a couple of mentors. In no way am I saying that it has to be me, but connect to somebody that you know, that you trust, that you appreciate their content. Remember at the beginning of the video, I was like, man, this person really started, their content really started speaking to me. Their videos really started helping me. Connect with somebody like that. And then, you know, book a call with them or buy their thing, or maybe come in at a lower end, whatever their lower end thing is, and work your way up. But whatever you do, if you want to change, you have got to start making some changes. And the fastest way to do that is to hire a coach, hire a mentor, okay? Another part of this big lesson, I would say, is you've got to learn to take massive imperfect action. Remember what I said a little bit earlier here in the training is massive imperfect action. Imperfect action beats no action at all. So if you're ready to start making money, then you need to understand that action takers are money makers, okay? And then the third part of this big lesson is something that I failed to mention in the higher levels, probably 3, 4, and 5. When you join these mentorship programs, you're not just hiring a coach, you're becoming part of a community. So the big I told you like the big takeaways I got from the individual coaches and mentors, individual mentorship programs. But one of the biggest takeaways at large with all of these combined are the relationships that I have built being in the room with like-minded, like-hearted people who are on the same journey as me. I mean, ideas, business partnerships, connections, networks that happen only in these rooms that you can't do whatever, at your kid's school or at your local church, right? Like, this is a place for high level individuals to get together, share their ideas, swap knowledge, make partnerships, build friendships, leverage one another's giftings, and grow and grow and grow. So those are the biggest things that I would suggest to you. Let me know down in the comments which one of these 5 mentors and their situations spoke to you the most. Which one of these levels would you consider yourself at right now? And let me know down in the comments if you have hired a coach or a mentor yet, who they are, your biggest thing that you've learned from them. Thank you so much for watching this training. If you'd like to continue seeing more content like this, make sure to like and subscribe, share this with somebody that you think they would get value from this video, and stay plugged in here to the channel. We'll see you on the next training.